October 1st, 331 BC. The sun rises over a vast, flat plain in northern Iraq. This ground has been chosen. It has been prepared. It has been leveled by thousands of hands, cleared of stones and bushes. This is the plain of Gaugamela, and today it is a chessboard for the fate of the world. On one side, the largest army the Persian Empire has ever assembled, a sea of over 200,000 men drawn from every corner of the known world, glittering with bronze and gold. At its center is Darius III, the King of Kings, fighting to save his empire from the brink. On the other side, a small, battle-hardened force of 47,000 Greeks and Macedonians. They are outnumbered, perhaps 5 to 1. They are exhausted, and they are led by a 25-year-old king who believes he is the son of a god. This is not just a battle. This is the final gamble. Alexander the Great has already defeated Darius twice, at the Granicus River and at Issus. But those were mere preludes. Darius has retreated, regrouped, and drawn Alexander into a trap of his own making. On this field, on this day, there will be no retreat. One army will be annihilated. One empire will fall. How did this happen? How did a force so small, so outnumbered, not only survive, but achieve one of the most decisive victories in all of military history? The answer lies not in numbers, but in psychology, in a revolutionary battle plan, and in one moment of genius that changed the world forever. This is the minute-by-minute analysis of the Battle of Gaugamela. To understand Alexander's victory, you must first understand Darius's plan. He was not a fool. He had learned from his defeats. At Issus, he was trapped in a narrow field where his superior numbers meant nothing. He would not make that mistake again. He personally selected Gaugamela. Its vast open expanse was a cavalryman's dream. It was the perfect killing floor, designed to let his scythed chariots and his overwhelming numbers of horsemen envelop and crush the smaller Macedonian army. Darius deployed his army to maximize this advantage. His line was immense, stretching for miles. He placed his finest cavalry, the Bactrians and Scythians, led by the satrap Bessus, on his left flank. He placed another massive cavalry wing under Mosaeus on his right. And in the center, surrounded by his royal bodyguard, the 10,000 immortals, stood Darius himself. But his true innovation, his psychological weapon, was deployed in the very front, 200 scythed chariots. These were the tanks of the ancient world. Long, sharpened blades extended from their wheels, designed to mow down infantry and shatter the morale of any man who stood against them. To ensure their effectiveness, Darius had the ground in front of them smoothed and cleared. Darius's plan was simple. Hold the Macedonians in place with his infantry, unleash the chariots to break their center, and then, from both sides, unleash a tidal wave of cavalry to envelop and annihilate them. It was a good plan. It was, on paper, an unbeatable plan. As dawn broke, Alexander's generals saw the Persian line and were terrified. The night before, his most trusted general, Parmenion, had urged a night attack. "We should attack in the dark," he argued, "to hide our small numbers and sow confusion." Alexander's reply was legendary. "I will not steal my victory." He trusted his men. He trusted his tactics, and he had planned that was as brilliant as it was insane. He deployed his 47,000 men not in a traditional line, but in a complex, layered formation that baffled the Persian scouts. His right wing, The hammer he commanded himself. This was his elite strike force, the companion cavalry. Beside them, his elite light infantry, the Agrianians. His center, the anvil, was the Macedonian phalanx, 16 ranks deep, armed with the 18-foot sarissa pike, a wall of spear points that was virtually unbreakable from the front. His left wing, the anchor, was commanded by the man who had advised the night attack, Parmenion. He was given the Thessalian cavalry, the best in Greece, and his orders were simple. Do not break. No matter what happens, hold the line. But the true genius was hidden. Behind both flanks, Alexander placed more troops, angled backwards at 45 degrees. These were his refused flanks. This formation served two purposes. First, if the Persian cavalry tried to circle around him, which Alexander knew they wouldn't find an open flank. They would slam into a fresh line of spears. Second, it created a box, a flexible, moving fortress. This was not an army, it was a machine, and every part had a purpose. Alexander's plan was not to meet the Persian line, but to break it, and to do that, he had to make Darius do something Darius didn't want to do. The battle begins. The horns sound. The Persian line, massive and static, waits. And then Alexander does something no one expects. He does not charge forward. He does not send his phalanx into the center. Instead, he orders his entire army to march to the right. Imagine you are Darius. You are sitting on your royal chariot in the center of your prepared battlefield. You've leveled the ground. You've positioned your chariots. And your enemy, the man you are trying to trap, is simply walking away. He is marching sideways at an oblique angle, parallel to your line. With every step, he moves further and further away from the smooth ground you prepared for your chariots. He is moving towards the rough, unprepared terrain on your flank. This is psychological warfare. Alexander is tearing up Darius's script. Darius panics. He has two choices. He can do nothing and let Alexander march right off the battlefield or circle around his flank, or he can stop him. Darius chooses to stop him. He must react. He gives the order. Bessus, commander of the elite Bactrian and Scythian cavalry on his left, is to charge. Stop Alexander. Pin him down. The Persian cavalry surges forward, galloping to intercept Alexander's rightward drift. The Battle of Gaugamela has begun, not with a clash of infantry, but with a desperate cavalry race on the far edge of the field. This is exactly what Alexander wanted. As the cavalry clash erupts, Darius sees his plan slipping away. Alexander's strange maneuver has forced his hand. He needs to regain control. He needs a decisive blow. He gives the second order. Send in the chariots. 200 scythed chariots thundered across the plain, aimed directly at the heart of the Macedonian phalanx. This is the moment of terror. This is the weapon designed to break Greek courage. But Alexander had prepared for this. He had trained his men. As the chariots approached, the Macedonian officers bellowed their orders. The phalanx, this unbreakable wall of spears, did the unthinkable. It opened. Like gates opening, The front ranks of the phalanxes sidestepped, creating mouse holes or channels through the formation. At the same time, the Agrianians, the light infantry, hurled a storm of javelins not at the chariots, but at the horses and the drivers. The attack was a catastrophic failure. Some chariots were stopped dead, horses riddled with javelins. Others, driverless, harmlessly passed through the channels to the rear of the Macedonian army, where they were quickly captured. The psychological weapon had been neutralized. It had failed to kill a single man in the phalanx. The first blow of the battle, Darius's ace in the hole, had been a complete failure. Alexander's men roared in triumph. But the battle was far from over. While Alexander was busy on the right and his phalanx was dealing with the chariots, a crisis was developing on his left. Parmenion, the old general, was in a fight for his life. Darius had not only sent his chariots, he had also ordered a full assault from his right wing. Mazaeus, with tens of thousands of Persian cavalry, slammed into Parmenion's small contingent. Parmenion was holding the anchor of the entire army. He was outnumbered, outflanked, and being systematically torn apart. The Persian cavalry was so successful they actually broke through a gap in the Macedonian line and began racing towards Alexander's baggage camp in the rear. Parmenion was on the verge of collapse. He sent a desperate, frantic messenger to Alexander. "The left wing is breaking. We need help. The army is lost if you do not turn back." This was the true test. This was the moment of decision. Alexander, on the right, was poised to strike, but his entire army was about to be cut in two from the left. What would he do? But the battle was far from over. While Alexander was busy on the right and his phalanx was dealing with the chariots, a crisis was developing on his left. Parmenion, the old general, was in a fight for his life. Darius had not only sent his chariots, he had also ordered a full assault from his right wing. Mazaeus, with tens of thousands of Persian cavalry, slammed into Parmenion's small contingent. Parmenion was holding the anchor of the entire army. He was outnumbered, outflanked, and being systematically torn apart. The Persian cavalry was so successful, they actually broke through a gap in the Macedonian line and began racing towards Alexander's baggage camp in the rear. Parmenion was on the verge of collapse. He sent a desperate, frantic messenger to Alexander. "The left wing is breaking. We need help. The army is lost if you do not turn back." This was the true test. This was the moment of decision. Alexander, on the right, was poised to strike, but his entire army was about to be cut in two from the left. What would he do? Alexander receives Parmenion's message. His left flank is collapsing. His right flank is locked in a brutal fight. But Alexander does not look left. He does not look right. He looks forward. He is an eagle, soaring above the chaos, waiting for one moment. And now he sees it. To stop Alexander's rightward drift, Darius had ordered his left-wing cavalry under Bessus to charge. To support that charge, Darius had pulled his own cavalry from his center. And now, as Bessus and his men galloped further and further to the left, a thin, almost imperceptible tear in the fabric of the vast Persian line, right next to Darius himself. It was there for only a second, a fatal moment of overextension. This was the mistake Alexander had been waiting for all day. This was the opening he had created with his impossible sideways march. He does not turn to help Parmenion. He does not waver. He seizes his moment. He wields his elite companion cavalry, 1,800 men, 90 degrees. He forms them into a wedge, an embolon, and with a cry to his gods, Alexander the Great, at the head of his men, aims his spear not at the Persian army, but at one man. He charges directly at Darius. This is the climax. This is the decisive point of the entire war. The Macedonian wedge, a spearhead of flesh and steel, slams into the gap. They smash through the weakened line of Darius's royal guard. The lances of the companions are longer, their discipline fiercer. Darius, from his chariot, sees the unthinkable. A cloud of dust, the glint of Macedonian helmets, and then the terrifying smoke-stained face of Alexander himself emerging from the chaos, spear in hand, charging directly for him. The Persian guards fight bravely. They die where they stand, but they cannot stop the force of the attack. And in this moment, Darius, the King of Kings, ruler of the largest empire on earth, does the one thing a king can never do. He panics. He orders his charioteer to turn. He brakes. He flees. The effect is instantaneous. It is catastrophic. The entire Persian army, a force of over 200,000 men, was held together by one thing: the belief in their king. The moment he fled, that belief shattered. The center of the army, seeing the royal chariot racing away, dissolves into panic. The rout spreads like a virus. The left wing, seeing the center collapse, breaks and flees. The battle is over. Not by exhaustion, not by attrition, but by a single, decisive, psychological blow. Alexander wants to pursue Darius. To capture him would be to end the war. But as he gallops forward, another messenger from Parmenion arrives. The left wing has not routed. Parmenion has held, but he is still on the verge of annihilation. The Persian right wing under Mazaeus is still fighting, unaware their king has fled. And here, Alexander makes the second most important decision of the day. He gives up the glory of the chase. He sacrifices the personal prize, Darius, to save his men. He wheels his companions once more and charges back into the fray, slamming into the rear of the still victorious Persian right wing. This new attack, from a direction they thought secure, is the final straw. Mazaeus' forces, caught between Parmenion's anvil and Alexander's hammer, disintegrate. The rout is total. The greatest army ever assembled is now just a terrified mob fleeing for its life. By sunset, the plain of Gaugamela was a field of slaughter. Ancient sources claim over 40,000 Persians lay dead. The Macedonians, by contrast, lost perhaps less than 500. Darius would escape, only to be murdered later by his own satrap, Bessus, the very man whose charge had opened the fatal gap. The Achaemenid Empire, which had ruled the world for over 200 years, ceased to exist. Alexander the Great was now, indisputably, the king of Asia. Gaugamela was not a battle won by brute force. It was won by the mind. It was a masterpiece of asymmetric warfare. Alexander knew he could not win a head-on collision, so he didn't fight the battle Darius had planned. He created his own. He used a strange, oblique maneuver to force a reaction. He used his refused flanks to absorb the inevitable counterattack. He neutralized Darius's greatest weapon, the chariots, with superior training. And he held his nerve, waiting, watching, for one single mistake. When that mistake came, he struck with a singular focus, aiming not at the army, but at the head. He didn't defeat the Persian army. He defeated the mind of Darius. And in doing so, he didn't just win a battle. He changed the map of the world and forged a legend that would echo for eternity.